All right, let's dive into an idea that's running in the background of your life every single day, whether you notice it or not. We're going to completely reframe how you look at making a choice, and it all starts with a pretty wild thought. What if every single choice you make is actually a gamble?
So let me just ask you straight up. When I say the word bet, what pops into your head? Seriously, take a second. What's the first image that comes to mind? Because for most of us, it's something very, very specific.
Yeah, chances are your mind went straight to something like this, right? Putting down cash on a poker hand, betting on a horse, maybe a fantasy football league. It's this world of money, risk, odds, and, high stakes. And look, that's not wrong, but it's such a tiny, tiny piece of the real picture.
And here's where the perspective shifts, big time. What if every single decision, I'm talking from what you have for breakfast, to changing careers, to moving to a new city, what if it's all just a bet? A wager you're placing on a future that is, by definition, uncertain. That's the core idea we're going to unpack right now.
Okay, so if we're going with this idea that every decision is a bet, the next logical question is, how do we get better at it? Well, it all starts with understanding what a bet is actually made of. So let's dissect it. Let's look at its anatomy. It turns out that any bet, whether you're at a Vegas table or just standing in your kitchen, has the same 4 ingredients. It all kicks off with a choice, sure, but it gets way more interesting from there. These 4 pieces are all connected. First up, choice. This feels super obvious, right? But it's so fundamental. You are always picking one thing, which means you're not picking all the other things. Taking a new job means saying no to your current one. And here's the real kicker. Deciding you're not going to decide? Guess what? That's a choice too, and it has its own set of outcomes. There's no escaping.
Next up, every single choice has stakes. You are always putting resources on the line that you can't get back. And we're not just talking about money. It's your time, your energy, your focus, even your reputation. It's what economists call opportunity cost. It's the value of the road you didn't travel down.
And this is where the idea of a bet really locks into place. The result of your choice is never a sure thing. There are no guarantees. You're not working with certainties. You're always working with probabilities. You're making an educated guess about a future that you simply can't predict with 100% accuracy.
So if we're just making guesses, what do we base them on? Well, we base them on our beliefs. Your personal instruction manual for how the world operates. Your own mental model. That's the bedrock of every choice you make. You pick path A over path B because you truly believe it has a better shot at getting you the outcome you want.
Okay, I get it. That whole framework might sound a little theoretical, a bit abstract. So let's pull it right down to earth. Let's look at a super simple, everyday example that shows how this framework applies to, well, pretty much everything.
Just think about what's for dinner tonight. As you can see here, even that simple decision fits our 4-part framework perfectly. The choice is cooking versus takeout. The resources at risk, your time and effort versus your money. The uncertain future, you're betting your home-cooked meal will be satisfying or that the delivery will be fast and delicious. And the underlying belief, it could be anything from, I'm a great cook and this will be healthier, to, you know what, the takeout place never lets me down.
So why are we going through all of this? What's the actual payoff of thinking like this? Well, embracing this better's mindset is a complete game changer for the quality of your decisions. It really is.
On one hand, if you just ignore the fact that you're making a bet, you're basically running on autopilot. You're driven by assumptions you've never questioned, and you don't really learn from the outcomes, good or bad. But when you consciously see your decisions as bets, everything changes. You start to think more objectively. You see the hidden risks. You spot the opportunities. And you make choices that are actually in line with your real goals.
So that brings us to the most important part. How do we actually use this? How can we get proactive and start making better bets and therefore better decisions? Let's get into a few practical things you can start doing today.
It really boils down to these 3 things. First, instead of just making a choice, consciously frame it as a bet. What are the stakes? What are the possible outcomes? Second, try to put a number on your uncertainty. You don't need a PhD in statistics. Just ask yourself, am I 50% sure this will work, or more like 90%? It forces you to be honest. And finally, the most powerful step, dig into your beliefs. Ask why. Why do I believe this is the right move?
But I've got to give you a major warning here. There's one huge pitfall to watch out for.
It's so easy to analyze all the active choices you could make and totally forget that doing nothing is also a bet. Staying in the same job, the same city, the same situation, that choice has its own risks and its own massive opportunity costs. You've got to weigh that one just as carefully as any other.
So we've talked about the what, the why, and the how of seeing your decisions as bets. To wrap this explainer up, I want to turn this whole framework back on you, right here and right now.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Looking at your life, your career, your health, your relationships, you name it, what is the single most important bet that you are making at this very moment? And now that you can see all its component parts, how might you think about that bet just a little bit differently?